Étienne de Poncins, Ambassador of France to Poland. Welcome to the studio, Mr. Ambassador.
Good evening.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
So, no security in Europe without the Europeans, and no peace in Ukraine without the Ukrainians. Those are the words of Emmanuel Macron. The French president was in Warsaw yesterday in what has the French press labeled as a round-trip express, and he held talks both with the Prime Minister Donald Tusk and with the President Andrzej Duda. So, did the talks held here in Warsaw yesterday bring us any closer to peace?
Yes, but first the visit of President Macron to Warsaw, the 12th of December, was a bilateral visit because my president wanted to engage both with Prime Minister Tusk and President Duda. After the visit of Prime Minister Tusk to Paris in February, and they want to continue their in-depth dialogue between France and Poland. Of course, as you have mentioned, Ukraine, the situation in Ukraine was at the very heart of the discussion, both with the Prime Minister and with President Duda. And on Ukraine, first, my president wanted to pay sincere tribute to what has been done by Poland to support Ukraine from the very first day of the aggression war of Russia against your neighbor.
Well, the situation is very dire. Only today, 94 ballistic missiles fell on Ukraine. So, understandably, Ukraine says that there can be no peace without security guarantees. So, Emmanuel Macron and Donald Tusk talked yesterday about a potential international peacekeeping force for Ukraine, right? And do you think sending troops to Ukraine can somehow contribute to a long-lasting peace in Ukraine?
But first of all, the two leaders reaffirms clearly their unwavering support to Ukraine, and they pay tribute also to the extraordinary resistance of the Ukrainian people against aggression by Russia. After that, as you have said, the situation is difficult on the ground, and the arrival at the White House of President Trump is also a new element that has to be taken into account. And in this context, they are exchanging notes, exchanging analysis about what can be done, and it is clear that security of Europe is a concern for all European countries, including and the first head, France and Poland, and this should be part of a package. So they exchange their analysis and everything. Nothing should be ruled out in principle.
Well, for the time being, Polish activity in Ukraine would be ruled out. This is what Prime Minister Donald Tusk said. But do you think that Poland could reconsider its position on that if NATO takes a more active role?
We are at the very beginning of the process, the peace process. So it's difficult for the moment to say where we are going to head. But the important, I think, at this moment was to state again very strong principle, nothing about Europe without Europe, and nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine. So the two leaders were exactly on the same page regarding those matters.
Well, perhaps it's too early to discuss, the venue and the peacemakers that could enable the peacekeeping process. But despite the ongoing war of attrition, both sides seem to signal off the record and send some informal signals about a possibility of holding talks. So now, Emmanuel Macron was the last key figure of European Union to hold talks with Vladimir Putin back to 2022, and he was very involved in the peace process up to very last moment before the war broke. Do you think Macron's personal devotion to the peace in Ukraine can play a role in this process now?
Things have moved since 2 years, unfortunately, and so my president has not been in contact with President Putin for now years. And so what was before the war was before the war. Now the situation has completely changed. And we have stated clearly many times our unwavering support to Ukraine. And time has not come for France to engage again with the Russians. At this moment, I would, as I've said, the important points are for France to be involved and to engage with President Trump of the United States, and that was what we did at Notre Dame recently. For the first time, having a meeting between President Trump and President Zelensky in France, in Europe, at the Élysée Palace, and that was a very strong signal of how France is ready to ease and to the war.
And how does France perceive this dual communication? I mean, on one hand, we have the head of the presidency in the Council, Donald Tusk, holding talks with Emmanuel Macron and with his European counterparts. On the other hand, we see Orban holding talks with Putin on the phone, but still, and the Minister for Foreign Affairs traveling to Moscow.
I will not comment on the Hungarian presidency, but we have a lot of expectation in the incoming Polish presidency, and that's why President Macron was in Warsaw and not in Budapest this week. It's important for France and Poland to consult each other regularly on many issues, many matters. Ukraine was, of course, the most important, but the discussion between the President and the Prime Minister were also on other subjects, important subject, European matters, such as Mercosur, for example, where we are
on the same page,
and we are aligned on the same page. And there are a lot of. We look forward for the Polish presidency because Poland has a special role to play in Europe for the next semester, and so there was a very good conversation. And on many issues, we are exactly on the same page between France and Poland.
Mr. Ambassador, it's no secret that President Macron's visit to Warsaw was cut short due to the engagement domestically. Mm-hmm. As we know the name of the new Prime Minister, François Bayrou, a close ally of Emmanuel Macron. Will this appointment affect a change, or is it going to be rather a continuation policy?
On external affairs and European affairs, there will be no change because it is in our system. It's the president who is setting the tone of the French external policy, and that was also the case yesterday, in particular when it comes to the French-Polish relationships. And I'm pleased to announce that two leaders on this are also on the same page, and we have decided to launch and to accelerate the process of negotiating a very ambitious new treaty, which is going to be called the Treaty of Nancy, because it's going to be signed in Nancy during the first semester of next year. And this new treaty will show up the new dynamic of the relationships between our two countries. It will be a very comprehensive agreement, a very modern one, an ambitious one, and this will be also a very strong signal. And we are now, as a diplomat, we have been instructed to speed up the negotiation of that important element.
Ambassador, thank you very much for taking your time and to getting to us here to the studio.
Thank you very much. You're welcome.
Good night. And that was Étienne de Poncins, Ambassador of France to Poland.